Howdy, folks. I'm bloodthirsty Bloodroot, barbarically bleeding bitter beets.
I'm Amber.
And here are more bitter beets for us to bleed. If you stab them, they bleed. And I can tell you from personal experience that this is true. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Paying for My Oldest Daughter's Dream Wedding but not my youngest, since she will not do my two conditions? I am willing to pay for all of my children's wedding if they follow two conditions. The venue needs to be wheelchair friendly and they must invite all family unless for an extreme reason. Anything else is fine and I will fund the wedding. My eldest's wedding was around $40,000 and I paid for it all. My youngest is planning her wedding and I told her the conditions when she got engaged. Last week she informed me that she had found her venue and is asking for the down payment for it. The venue is in the mountains and it's not wheelchair friendly. The paths are dirt and the doors are not big enough and there are tons of stairs. I reached out to the venue and they have almost nothing for disabilities. I informed my daughter today that I will not be paying since the venue breaks the first condition. This is where the argument started. She thinks that I'm a jerk for playing favorites. I reminded her that there were conditions for me paying and she didn't follow them. Edit to clarify, we have multiple family members who use wheelchairs. So, thus the wheelchair rule. Alright folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. It's not favoritism because it's the same conditions for both people. And it seems like when someone is giving you like a free wedding, it's not uncommon for them to have some sort of like stipulations. This feels minimally invasive. Like, I want you to have an accessible venue so that all our family can attend. I think is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, this is a verbal contract, the way I view it, right? She laid out the conditions for the contract, and her daughter is in breach of the contract. She said that she would do this if she does that. Now, it would be different if OP came in and started making new conditions constantly. Like, oh, not just this and this, but also this, this, and this, right?
Yeah.
And so just completely picking at her. So every single time she sees her, there's a new condition in order for her to pay for the wedding. That would be different. That would be like that at that point in time. That wouldn't be like a contract. That would just be someone trying to bend someone else to their will, right? And I think that there's really an important distinction here because, again, there are minimal conditions on this. Most people would be happy to have those conditions. Now, I will say, I think the family condition is a little much sometimes, like if you want to have like a small wedding or something. But I guess in the respect that if it's a small wedding, then it would be easier to pay for.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I mean, again, as long as the mother is willing to have a little bit of flexibility on that guest list, because if there's somebody who makes you really uncomfortable and you don't want them there, but it's not an extreme enough thing, then I think that that would be a little bit in poor taste to force them to invite that person.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, the way it sounds is more like it's just not important to the daughter to have these family members there, which is a little different. Like, because I 100% agree that no one should be forced to have people that make them uncomfortable at their wedding.
Yeah, unless it's like your disability makes me uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I mean, like creepy type uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You
Like
know,
your uncle is hitting on you type of thing.
yeah, not, oh, I'm just an ableist jerk.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And TJB Murph says, Holy cow, all of the why does it need to be wheelchair friendly questions. It's completely obvious that someone needs access. Are you all just ableist, not the jerk? And OP replies, I thought that it was obvious, but apparently not. And OKPlay2364 says, it's completely fair if you don't pay. It's also completely fair for her to choose that location and pay for herself. Would you be understanding? And OP replies, that's fine, it saves me money actually. I just won't fund something that excludes the family. And Trish SF says, info, are there people who will be coming that need to be in a wheelchair? And OP replies, yes. Witch9 says, more info. Does she actually have a close relationship to these people, or are these just relatives expected at events? And OP replies, I would say yes, they have been in her life for years. They aren't strangers, or that's just Aunt Jean. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for moving out of my parents' house when my brother and his family moved in? There is a whole lot of unnecessary backstory, and I will leave it out. I rented my parents' house after they retired and moved south. I paid slightly below market rate. The plan was for me to save up and eventually buy the house at a great price. They would then give that money to my brother as part of their estate. My share was the subsidized rent, and they very subsidized the purchase agreement. Everyone thought this was fair until my brother's wife started running up debts that they couldn't cover. This led to them losing their house and needing help. I love my brother and my nephews, so when my mom asked me if they could move in, I talked to my husband and we agreed. We are in the process of adopting 2 siblings, but we are still not there. It was only going to be temporary, so why not? Half of the rent for a few months would totally help us with a down payment and expenses. They moved in February. When March rolled around, I sent and transferred half of my usual rent to my parents. My mom called and asked me where the rest of the rent was. I said that I assumed that Brad was paying the other half as well. Nope, I had to pay all of the rent. I asked why I had to pay for them to stay in my house. My mom said that it wasn't my house yet and that I was being mouthy. I saw the writing on the wall, I paid the rent, and I started looking. We had a good amount saved up, and we didn't need a big old house with lots of maintenance issues that we had been handling. We paid the rent in full in April, but we moved out into the house that we closed on. It was ready for immediate possession. With my husband and I having a decent income and 25% down, it went smoothly. The only downside was a much smaller yard, but it's a block away from a public park, so we aren't losing much. I did tell my parents that we were leaving. May 1st, I got another call from my mom and she wanted the rent. I said that I wasn't living there anymore. She said that I was breaking the deal. I said that our deal never included me paying for my brother's living expenses. She said that they couldn't afford to cover the mortgage without my rent. I told her to get the money from my brother. He was still working. She said that he was trying to pay down his debts. I said that his wife should get a job then. I could write a much longer post on just this discussion. Long story short was that I was being cheap and vicious to my brother and my parents. We are settling into our newish house, just ignoring them for a little while. But I'm wondering if I may be in the wrong. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. You had an agreement. Your parents changed the terms of that agreement without your consent. You gave them notice you were leaving, and they expected you to just pay the rent indefinitely. Like, I understand your brother is facing tough times, but that doesn't mean that he gets to just live off of you for indefinitely.
Yeah, if they've been living here for a while and paying a lot of money for rent, then they're kind of shooting themselves in their own foot by leaving in some respects. I'm not blaming them, mind you. I can understand why they would feel that this was an unfair situation, right? But they were kind of building equity in this house.
Well, I think they're seeing that when Opie says that she's seeing the writing on the wall, I think it means that brother and his wife are never going to leave.
Yeah.
And they're going to be living, like, if they stay, they're going to have to subsidize the brother and his wife indefinitely.
Yeah.
And so she just wanted to be a situation where they could have their own home and not have brother living there mooching off them.
So I'm wondering if they thought that the parents were going to end up giving the house away to the brother instead, or...
I think they're going to be like, well, he has equal claim to the house. So, like, their whole thing about, oh, yeah, you can buy this OP is going to go out the window now that he's in need.
Mm-hmm. So I think the situation is a little crummy for OP. I think that this is certainly a difficult situation, but let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And DRH Des says, not the jerk, tell me who's the golden child without telling me who's the golden child. Your brother and his family are taking advantage of everyone. Glad you stood your ground. And OP replies, my parents helped me with lower rent for a lot of years. They love my brother, and he is in a hole. And Eternial says, he's in a hole of his own making though, which is not your responsibility to bail him out. And OP replies, I know, I just still feel bad. And Space Jesus is here says, you gave them more notice of leaving than they gave you that you would be paying full rent to a second family, so not the jerk. But let's be real, you are never going to get that house as long as your brother needed it. You probably would have to have evicted them and deal with months of family drama and animosity. You did the right thing for your family, especially since you're trying to adopt. Owning a home and not having too many people in it are major factors in that process. And OP replies, it would have been an issue for sure. And speaking of rent, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to pay rent to my parents? I'm a 19-year-old female, and I'm in a bit of an impasse with my parents, a 46-year-old male and a 44-year-old female. Regarding rent, for the house that we all live in. Background: when I was in early high school, my grandmother unfortunately passed away. In her will, she left half the house to my mother and the other half to me. She had no other relatives. My whole family moved to my grandmother's house, and we've been living there ever since. When I finished college, I enrolled at a local college, and it honestly didn't make much sense to move onto campus, as living at home would allow me to save money. So I continued to live at home. Grandma's money also helped cover my tuition, and I have a YouTube channel that generates some income, so I can cover my living expenses and still have some left. However, my parents are not happy that I continue to live at home and yet refuse to obey their home rules like curfew or how much time I spend playing video games, even though video games actually generate my income. Or that I don't come upstairs to join them for meals, and instead cook my own in my kitchenette downstairs. So they tried to pull the whole our home, our rules, either you pay rent or get out spiel. And I pointed out that it's as much my home as it is my mother's. And whatever the rent they charge me, I can charge my father as he isn't on the house deed. I don't mind contributing towards groceries, utilities, and house taxes, but they can't charge me rent for living in a house that I own legally, nor can they kick me out. I am not a kid anymore, and I'm not a tenant. They are mad that I dare to throw my house, my rules in their face. Am I the jerk? Update: all the replies made me realize that my parents might think that I am paying for the occurring expenses with inheritance, not with my streaming income, and that they might not understand how much I am actually making playing video games. I'll show them the printouts for the last 3 months and see what happens. Wish me luck. Update 2: I know how much the house was appraised for. I pay my portion of the house taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities, maintenance, etc. And I'm saving up for big house repairs that are coming up in 3 years. Update 3: I talked to my parents in detail and explained to them what I'm actually doing, and that when I'm playing games in funny costumes, with printouts of time it takes to set the stage, editing time, script writing time, maintaining the community, and how much I'm pulling on average per month. You guys were right. They legit had no idea that it can be a viable source of income with prep and thought, and I'm just squandering the inheritance on video games. We set my working hours and figured out the family time schedule, and they dropped the whole rent issue. Thanks, you all. All right, folks, what do you think of this?
I mean, I'm glad it had a nice resolution, but absolutely not the jerk. I mean, Opie has equal ownership in the house. The parents don't get to throw around my house, my rules. It's not their house solely.
Well, I also want to point out that even if OP was squandering their inheritance, they would still have no right to tell OP how to spend their money, right?
Exactly. Like, OP is an adult, not a child, like, who they have in trust or whatever. And they don't get to dictate her finances.
Now, I would understand them talking to OP and being like, hey, we're really concerned about your financial future. We want to make sure that you're financially stable, and so on and so forth. And I think that would be a legitimate conversation to have, but it seems like they were just trying to strong arm OP into being productive. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke. Ha 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 ha.
It's great to have brothers and sisters because there's always someone around to fight with, so you don't have to fight with your friends.
Yes, exactly. Why fight with friends when you can fight with siblings? Makes perfect sense. And I have licorice spice. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy terrific Tuesday. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on contract law.
It's not so much morals as like good legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but get everything in writing before, agreeing to a home purchase or anything of that nature.
Home purchases or rent or even wills and stuff like that, get it all in writing. That way there's no dispute about who owns what. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.